A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-COLE credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. We are powered by the OBBM network, man, and we have a great show planned for you today. It's been a great weekend, and we'll get into that in a little bit. How you doing, Sam?
Hi, doing great. It has been an exciting time, and I'm so happy to have our guest back tonight because we were able to scratch the surface on the previous time he was on, and we'll get to do a deeper dive into his book and then his course. But speaking of deep dive, you went on a deep dive with our guest from the very last podcast, 22-0. Why don't you tell everybody, about that?
We spoke on a podcast. We started talking. The next day, Trisha calls me up, and I didn't even make the appointment. I guess they just threw everything. They were like, bro, you need some help. We're going to give it to you. So Trisha calls me. She does her evaluation about 10, 15 minutes on the phone. She's a wonderful woman, right? She does her evaluation. The next day, Dan calls me up and says, hey, let's schedule an appointment. When can you come to Augusta, Georgia? And I'm like, wow, I got a lot of stuff going on this month, but I can come in November, right? He's like, scratch that. He goes, I'll fly out to you. Now, for someone to say that on a moment's notice, this is what I love about organizations that really care. They're not about anything else except they want to heal other people. And 22-0 is that organization, because the very next day he booked a flight. He came in on Thursday. So Monday we had the podcast. Tuesday I did the evaluation. He was in a hotel room here in Dallas from Augusta, Georgia on Thursday, giving me the therapy on Friday, which is the TRP and the EMP, which is a totally different modality than anything I've ever experienced. And if you've taken EMDR and if you've done all these other things and it not seem to work, go to 22-0 and really look into this, because it has helped me. And I'm going to be an advocate of this because I've suffered for so long. And one thing that I've always talked about, Sam, with you is my dogs trigger me, right? My dogs, they're loving, and they'll bark when someone comes to the door, and they go nuts, right? And it angers me. Not that sometimes it angers me to the point of almost getting violent because of the chaos, right? 2 days I spent with Dan, just really not reliving traumas or anything else, doing this TRP and this EMP. And I'll tell you right now, since Saturday, I've had 0 triggers so far. And my dogs have been barking, going nuts when people come to the door. It has not impacted me whatsoever. On another note, I went to my granddaughter's 5th birthday yesterday. And we've talked about disassociation and not really enjoying time with family, right?
Being present, but
being present
in terms of your body being there, but not being present here.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt so much different being there. I felt I was experiencing joy and a little happiness. And I was like, wow, this is kind of a weird feeling, But like Dan says, it's going to grow over time. And man, I am so blessed that we had them on, that we connected. It's something I probably would have never tried without hearing about it. And I'm so glad that Dan and Nick and
without your partner going through it first.
Yes. And you were telling me to go through it
Yeah.
because of the computer thing. And I just kept putting it off. But you know what, Dan? And they were just like, nope, we're coming to you. And boom, I'm feeling good. I'm hoping it stays like this. And I'm going to take the steps he told me to take. I'm doing them every day. One thing he did find, and which is great for longevity, is most brains, when he did the scan, most brains come back green. Well, a normal brain comes back green, right? But he found 2 TBIs in my brain, and he also found that my brain was a light blue, right? Which means it's hormone deficient.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be from all the chemical dumps and everything else being in a hypervigilant state. It depleted everything.
Right.
Now
Exactly.
Right. So now I'll go on to some omega-3s and some fish oils and some supplements. When I go see him in Augusta, Georgia in November, right, they're going to do another brain scan, and they're going to go through another 2 therapy sessions, and they're going to see if the brain healed at all. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this path of healing. And I can't thank Dan and Nick and the whole staff at 22-0 enough for really 45 years of being in hypervigilant. I feel like I'm out of it. I'm getting out of it.
Well, that is awesome. I'm so happy for you. And the results speak for themselves. Dan and I were talking, and I was like, John's your perfect client because he's so skeptical. I'll wait to hear. I don't want to put too much out there, but I'm so happy for you. And we talk about how it's not one size fits all with what heals. So you have to find what works for you. And we know that can be frustrating. That's when you want to grab onto a battle buddy, a partner. Just keep talking and keep exploring. And if you want to know more, just jump on our website, abadgeofhonor.org, and click on 220.org as you scroll down to see our partners and resources, because they are right there on the homepage. And this is a perfect point. We're going to take a quick break before we bring our first guest on. But what you talked about, John, is living after, how you choose to live after we're done with the work, right? We chose to serve. We choose to serve now in a different role, but that we don't have that badge. Well, we got the badge in that corner, and we got the badge right up there. But if folks listening, you know what I mean. It's different, and when you don't have the resources to let go of that hypervigilant state, to get out of where you reside, because you've done that for 20, 30, 40 years.
Becomes the norm.
Right. Our next guest is, he has done a phenomenal job between his book and the course that he teaches on. It's like, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going to tell you what I went through, because stories are the best. Because when you can grab onto somebody and say, that's me.
Yep.
He can help. So we're going to take our first break, and we will be right back with our repeat guest, because he's here for part 2, John Kelly, the law enforcement life coach. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor, and getting ready to get mentally healthy even more with our next guest, John Kelly. And sometimes heroes need help, right, John? Sometimes heroes need help.
It's great to see you guys. Listen, I just got to double down on 22-0, man. Dan, Nick, Trish, it's an organization. I've never met one that there is no agenda other than you getting better.
Yep.
And it is just, there's just such great people to know, to have in your life. And a real quick, I had a guy down in Metro involved in a shooting. His partner died next to him. And I called Dan. He goes, we're not waiting. We're not waiting. The next day, I sat with that young man and I took him through the different modalities, and no nightmares, no hypervigil. Everybody else in his unit was struggling with this traumatic event, and he was dealing with it effectively. Right. And as a situation couldn't be any more messed up, that you kill the bad guy that kills your partner in a span of 5 feet, and everybody else is spiraling emotionally, mentally, and he is processing, and he's still having the irregular emotions that we would all have, losing a partner.
Oh yeah,
but
normal.
He's not detached. He's engaged. He's he knows that he doesn't know, and he was open to the idea of getting help. And 22-0, I still do a buddy check with him. This was over a year ago, and he's thriving after a pretty horrific incident. So hats off to 22-0, Dan Jarvis and the crew. I can't say enough great things about him. See, you got me all jacked up again.
But John, you bring us into another good point on this. You know, you can go to those sessions 1 or 2 or 3 times, right? And then you're done. You can't be done. We have constant maintenance throughout our life, right? And that's where, like, you come in. We have to constantly maintain that self-awareness, or we can spiral backwards, and we don't want to do that.
Right.
So, you know, we can't just say it's a one and done thing. Never, ever again. We have to just keep getting those regular tune-ups, those checkups, like everything else.
I think we're constantly growing, right? I mean, I think when we do that, I mean, if 22-0 was on the corner 5 years ago, probably wouldn't have given them even a look, right? Because, you know, we're too smart for our own good, right? We know enough to think we're right, but not enough to know we're wrong, you know? And so, right? And so I love that. It's not until we've experienced enough pain where we go, all right, I'm done. I'm done with feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm done with living this life that's unfulfilled. Who's out there that I can reach out to, that maybe I can, you know, that can help me weather the storm and maybe actually thrive, right? And so that's I'm so happy for you that you went ahead and took that leap of faith, man, and sat down with them.
Yeah. And it's not over. It's, you know, I will continue to do what we do, like on a badge of honor, and it's all a healing process until the day they put me in the ground. But you know what? They're going to put me in the ground. I know I'm not going to put myself in the ground.
There you go. Amen.
Yeah. And that's the growth process. And when you're around people who have been through shit and have come out the other side, you use a great word, John Kelly, thrive.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to live in the moment, how to feel again. There's nothing better. And if you guys are just tuning in, like this is the first time that you're seeing John, he was in law enforcement for 30 years. He's retired now. Go back to episode 51. Okay. And start there. And then
this is part 2.
This is part 2. So we're not going to go over your life again, but let's dive right into, first of all, you got to pick up the book. Okay. Surviving self-inflicted wounds. When we talk about healing through and understanding the healing process because other people have done it, this book lays out, John, it's masterful. And there's
listen, have you been drinking? You've been drinking, right?
I have.
No. People have said a lot of things about that book, but masterful has not been one of them.
Okay, well, add that to the repertoire.
You're killing
John
me.
can tell you.
Oh,
I
too
feel
funny.
like I have to say New York John, Boston John. New
Okay.
York John can tell you. At our last workshop, I passed out the recommended reading list, and somebody's like, "Did you read all these books?" And I was like, "Well, shit, yeah. I'm not going to recommend them unless I've read them." And it's just like, if you do couch, you do equine, you do 22-0 T or T, their modalities. Everything hits you for where you are right then. And it was John, Boston John, it was your openness, it was your candor, it was the willingness to talk about Nicole, and your marriage and what happened and the infidelity and the way that you put things together, the way you said, enough is enough. I'm drawing the line. I mean, and you were in law enforcement. I kind of liken it now to where we've got testosterone replacement, TRT, and hormone replacement, and what's going on with some of the guys in law enforcement. For you, it was steroids, which I mean, it's the same when you break it down.
Thing.
It's the same thing.
It's more regulated now, and there's more guidance and direction, and
it's not just jabbing a needle in your rear end. And just take the listeners through and the folks watching a little bit about your redemption here and how you fell hard, man.
I more than once too, right? Yeah. And so I guess that's kind of there's a lot of takeaways that I want the reader to walk away with. One is, unfortunately, we have a way of not forgiving ourselves for our failures, and when we hang on to that shame, whether it's being an alcoholic, an addict, an adulterer, right? We don't ever give ourselves the opportunity to be a different person. Right. We stay stuck by our own definition. And so part of writing it was to show you that you can fail multiple times. You can hurt people that you purport to love, and absolutely give them no reason to love you, and still thrive and still come out on the other side. And I think, not most importantly, but everything that happened to me, I did. This wasn't, I think we in the moment, we like to point fingers and we like to assess blame, I think, but ultimately, if we're going to be, truthful, that we are, if we're the reason why the problem exists, then we can be the solution. And I think when we don't own it, when we don't take ownership of where we are and how we got there, that sets us up to get stuck. And then when we get stuck, we spiral. We no longer grow, and we just start spiraling. So it's as much about surviving self-inflicted wounds as just coming to grips with the fact that you're the reason why. And if you're the reason why, you can do something about it.
So you learn to forgive yourself.
You learn to forgive yourself, and you'll be the last one to forgive yourself. Everybody else will be willing to give you a pass up to a point. And when you do that, when you finally start taking the right kind of action, right? All these decisions, I made the decisions to abuse steroids. I made the decision to have an affair. I made the decision to drink and then go into work shit-faced. I made all those decisions. Nobody told me to do those things. And so I needed to deal with the consequences of those decisions. And when you do that, you can grow, you can learn, and you can be better than you were yesterday. Listen, I've got a saying, I've got a lot of them, but one of them is we didn't get messed up overnight, so we're not going to get fixed overnight. And so if we can just give ourselves a little bit of grace, to understand that listen, I love people that come out, oh, it's, you're a piece of shit, and everything's black and white. I wish everything was black and white, because it would make life a lot easier. But we live and we operate in the gray, and so I think it's important to understand that, to know that you don't know, right? We spend a ridiculous amount of time and resources teaching cops and first responders how to do their job, but we never spend any amount of time on teaching them or preparing them to deal with the things that they're going to encounter proactively to keep their relationships thriving and to keep their level of self-care and awareness where it needs to be. Those are things we hit the wall, crash and burn, and then everybody shows up, with a program. How about we do this on the front end?
But
it seems like a no-brainer. We got to take our next break. We're going to talk about the things that departments can do. We'll be right back, everybody.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor with John and Sam, and our return guest, John Kelly, with Law Enforcement Life Coach. John, you were just talking about, before we took the break, you hit on something that really made so much sense, is accountability. And cops are their worst enemies because just like post-traumatic stress, any type of addiction that you are, addicted to, or infidelity, we always seem to put an excuse. We tag an excuse on that, on why are we drinking? Well, there was a shooting. Well, why am I doing this? Because of that. We always tag that excuse on, and that kind of soothes the
ego is what it does.
Well, it makes us feel like we're justified, right? It puts us into a justified state. And what you said, John, was take accountability for your own actions, right? No one puts you in those positions except yourself. So learn to forgive yourself, because everybody makes mistakes. And I think you nailed it with that. And until we can do that, people are going to still suffer in battle.
Yeah. The other thing, John, that, it's like the elephant in the room. So our culture is dysfunctional. So when crazy becomes the new norm, when alcohol is all of our medicine, it's who's going to call you out for excessive drinking instead of adopting some healthy skill sets? Because listen, we go to DC every year at the memorial to pay tribute to our brothers and sisters that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. We honor them by getting shit-faced for a week. That's how we honor their service. Got a problem with that.
I was at DC in '93 when we had the full-scale riot in the hotel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, camaraderie's great, hanging out's great, busting chops is great. But the measure, the more I care about you, apparently the more intoxicated I'm supposed to get. And so, but that's a culture thing. And so I think that there's a long way to go in just trying to shift the culture. And I think the way we do that is the way we do that with a lot of things, is just one person at a time, and I think that by bringing some awareness to that, the things that we've done up until this point to deal with trauma and stress and longevity have not been working. I'm no better off 30 years after a career than I was when I started. And
if you make it 30 years after your career,
no doubt.
The statistics aren't on our side either.
No. And so, you throw in, but why would we live in retirement? I mean, we don't take care of ourselves. Our sleep deprivation is at an all-time high. And we're just starting to understand the horrible effects of not getting adequate sleep. And it not properly dealing with trauma. It's no wonder, right? It's no wonder, we're seeing, our the lifespan of a first responder diminished as we keep going on. We don't change the way we do things. We're going to keep getting the same result. And
Well, Dan, like John, Dan was saying, and you bring up that point, with me when he did the brain scan, right?
Yeah.
I never had a brain scan before, but he goes, "Hey, listen," he goes, "you keep this up, you're on the road to dementia,
sure,
Alzheimer's, because all those stressors affect the way your brain's going to react later on in years."
Yeah.
So you got to keep your brain mentally healthy and strong for when you do retire, so you can live well into your 70s and the 80s and possibly 90s,
sure,
with a good mental health outlook.
Absolutely.
I want to bring up in terms of talking about personal responsibility and accountability, because it's absolutely true. You have to have that, and when you're looking at somebody who has gone down, as John likes to say, the rabbit hole, okay,
yeah.
and you're stuck down there, and your PTS, your stress, your anxiety, whatever is going on with your mental health at that time, the chemicals have created a situation where there's no making sense of almost why you're doing what you're doing. You can recognize that it's destructive, but it's like, how the fuck do I fix it? And I think there's a fear that gets in the way. If you ride in a two-man team and a two-person team, and you've got your partner, and your partner has seen everything, and you have that comfort level, it'd be like, I am fucked up, please help me. And it's we talk about keeping that we back each other up, right? So that's not
Right.
Go snitch on the person that needs help. We're still living in that arena where it's, if I say something to somebody, they're going to go to my my supervisor.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you recommend, if somebody is so far down the rabbit hole that all they can say is, I don't know what's wrong, I'm just fucked up?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I have a great answer, I think. It starts with us caring. This is the other thing, Sam. This culture of ours is pretty toxic. And it's one of those things that we don't like to talk about either, because there's the profession has this persona that we, thin blue line, we all have each other's back. And listen, it's a friggin' bumper sticker as far as I'm concerned, because we don't walk that walk. We have each other's back when it's convenient. And unfortunately, when somebody's struggling and going through a hard time, that's not convenient for us. A shift, not liking, right? Let's be real. We don't have to like each other. But if we're going to be in this thing of ours, we've got to care about each other. We care more about complete strangers that we come in contact with on the street. We care more about them than the people in our roll call. There's a problem there. And a lot of it, there's a big, people like to point fingers. Well, the chief and this and that. It's bullshit. Chief doesn't set morale or the tone. You do. What your moral compass is, and whether or not you decide to be part of somebody's solution. And so we all know the guy that's struggling on the squad. It's not a secret. Do you have the courage? Do you have the fortitude, the conviction to say, hey, brother, hey, New York John, let's go for coffee after roll call. I want to talk to you about something.
Right.
We don't do that. We grab popcorn and we sit on the sidelines and we wait for the train to come off the rails, because there's some effed up, twisted part of us that feels better about ourselves when we see somebody crash and burn. And I got to tell you, I think the way we come out of this, it's not technology. It's giving a shit about each other at a level that maybe we're not comfortable caring. And, you can say, it's years of, getting kicked like a dog and blah, and it's, all these different things that have taken control over our lives and over time period X. I think a huge solution to the majority of our problems, not only as first responders, but as a people, is we just got to start caring about each other a little bit more. And it also starts with caring about yourself.
Right. You have to care about yourself. But you said it, after a suicide, after if a cop takes his life, you hear the chatter. Oh, I seen that coming. Oh, I knew he was, it was only a matter of time. All those little chatters. Yeah. And it's like, well, if you knew it was coming, if you saw it was coming, if you saw he was battling, why didn't you step up?
Yeah, John, unfortunately, suicide's one of those things. Listen, I had 3 attempts on my life over my 30 years from bad guys, but none of them came as close to killing me as I came to killing me. Right. So that's a tricky one, man, because we wear masks and, if there's something off, but maybe, I don't know. And you know what? I don't want to sound like a jerk, and maybe it's none of my business. You know what?
We can recognize when a perp we can recognize when a perp has a gun. We can recognize
make it your business
when someone's lying to us. We have all these skill sets that we can recognize a perp doing something bad. Don't tell me we can't recognize
it your business
when a brother is battling or a sister is battling. We can. We're like you said, it's the culture. We choose not to sometimes.
Right. And that was part of the book, is to show that vulnerability in my own life, that listen, I'm no less of an alpha for sharing with you my struggles and my faults and the things that I'm ashamed of. I'm no less of a man for doing that. And if we can have this conversation about shame and guilt and disappointing people in our lives, if we can do that and it just be a conversation, then maybe that makes it easier for you to have the conversation with somebody else, that we remove this weight of talking about things that historically we are ashamed to talk about, which is, our relationships, the thoughts of not being enough and suicide, and how we don't take care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I think there's power in that vulnerability.
Wow. Mic drop moment there.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam, as my dogs go crazy as Tara walks through the door. And it's not
a problem.
Not a problem. Yep.
Didn't even feel that little gut thing. Nothing. So, we were talking about, before the break, we're talking about vulnerability and how to be true to yourself and everything else, and the awareness levels of speaking out and going to get a cup of coffee. Who would have ever thought that we do need what you do, John, as a life coach, as a law enforcement life coach? We need this. We need this to keep us mentally healthy. We need this to keep our mental tune-ups going every so often. We need that inspiration, that fire, that outlook.
And the understanding.
Yeah,
And the
I think that
understanding,
that's huge.
exactly.
I think, listen, there's a lot of people in this space that care deeply about our first responders, and I've made some amazing friends. And I found that, one of the things that makes them successful is that they've lived a life, and it's so, I firmly believe in therapists and speaking with culturally competent folk. And ideally, it's somebody that has. I've got a friend, Pat Fitzgibbons. He was a police officer. He's a regional liaison for FHE Health, and he's going back to get his credentials and his licensing to be a therapist.
Yes, we've had Pat on. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, he's just guys like that are giving back, and then taking it to the next level. It's just so important.
Well, I mean, you took everything to the next level with your course. Sometimes heroes need help. So you went from the book, you've got this course, you're in front of, I'm a true believer, you're in front of the people that need to hear your message. And, just let the listeners and everybody watching know a little bit about how that operates, how the
Sure. Thank you,
speaking
Sam.
courses and all that.
I've been blessed. I get to speak at conferences all around the country. I'm speaking at the National COPS Trauma and Wellness Conference in Orlando in November. Most often, agencies bring me in, and I'll have a talk with their people, and I'll talk about, again, those things that we don't talk about, our relationships at home. And not only do I discuss the things that we need to be aware of in the pitfalls, but more importantly, what are the solutions? How do we keep from falling in the hole? Right? I mean, that's what we're looking to do. So I talk about Dr. Gary Chapman's love languages. Gary Chapman love languages. What the hell is that? When you find out about Dr. Gary Chapman and love languages, you find out in marriage counseling, right?
Yeah.
You find out too late. Like you needed to know how to communicate before the problem. So I talk about our relationship. I talk about our interactions at work and how we need to care for each other. I talk about our financial health and having tough conversations with the family about what we need to do. And it's not that we don't make enough money. We do pretty well. It's what we end up spending it on, right? So we talk about that. And then I usually wrap the course up speaking about our physical health and our mental health and the role of us being proactive in that area really plays. And it's this whole person approach to wellness: personal, professional, financial, physical, and mental health.
It all comes in to play.
One impacts the other, and to pretend that it doesn't, I think, sets us up for failure.
Yeah. When you get onto financial, yeah, you're right. A lot of cops do make a good living, but we end up spending it, overspending. And when you're in financial trouble, that exuberates everything, because now you're at odds with the spouse, right? Overspending.
Yeah.
Bills
You're
are piling
working
up.
more. You're working more. You're
more.
not at home, and it's just this cycle, right? And then you're not taking good care of yourself, and your time becomes consumed, and you're no longer working out, and you're not doing all the things that you were doing for you to keep yourself physically and mentally healthy.
Your brain gets physically exhausted. Your brain gets exhausted
easily. Yes.
And re-enter the personal responsibility part, right?
Yeah. I got to tell you, to somebody I think you should have on. She's really awesome. Her name is Olivia Johnson. She came up with it's called the Fatal 10. And there are all these areas in our lives. It's life. God bless you. The Fatal 10 is life, and it's our relationships, it's our mental health, it's our physical health, it's pending and near retirement, it's staying on our health wellness checks, it's access to firearms. She uses it as a guide, kind of like a a guide for potential like suicide, a measure of where you are in this. And I can tell you that at the height of my self-destruction, that fatal 10, I was failing in all of those categories horribly. And so what she's come up with, this matrix really that places the responsibility not on the job, but on you. And when you go into it with your eyes wide open and you know that I'm the reason why, it's empowering, right? If I'm the reason why, then I can fix it. It's not something intangible that's out in the distance or in the universe. It's how I'm living my life. And if I live my life differently, if I make different decisions, then maybe I can get out of this hole.
And it's the realization that it is about you, because we're living in a time where taking personal responsibility, it's not my fault, it's something else. So we're talking to law enforcement life coach John Kelly. If you're just tuning in, we got to take our next break, and we will be right back.
To the Health Engineer Show. I'm Clint Buckley, the Health Engineer, right here on the Offbeat.
Hi, I'm Larry Cortampa.
Hi, my name is Susan Hamilton, and you're watching Offbeat.
Hi, this is Doreen Milano. Welcome to Big Ideas Small Business, where we will talk to Terry Arjala.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam, with law enforcement life coach John Kelly. Man, if you're just tuning in, man, you're going to have to hit the rewind on this, because we've been covering a lot of stuff that will bring you out of your rabbit hole and get you mentally healthy and on a road to success and longevity. And that's what it's all about. In the beginning of the show, we talked about, when we retire, the average lifespan of a cop is 5-6 years. They want us to die because they don't have to pay the pensions out anymore, and they're done. We want to outlive them. We want to prove them wrong. We want to live 20, 30 years after retirement, maybe collect another pension on the back end of that. But we can only do that is if we take care of ourselves. So, John,
that self-care component, and that's the thing, John and Sam, it's an afterthought, right? I mean, our first responder community gives of themselves really when there's nothing left to give. They to the point of the tank being empty. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, because they haven't made their self-care a priority, they're exhausted, right? And so it's really getting the first responder to understand the importance of self-care and how they can incorporate that in their daily lives effortlessly, right? It's about time management. It's about, making you a priority. And I'll sit with people and I'll go, hey, John, so tell me, what have you done for you today? I got deer in the headlights staring back.
What do you mean
I go, yeah, exactly. I go, all right, well, let's start right there, man. Like, so, and it's so obvious to me now, right? Because I've made all the mistakes that, getting up a half hour early gives you a half hour to do for you right out of the gate, right? You've got kids, you've got responsibilities, all right, get up a half hour earlier and do something for you. Meditate, read a few pages in a book, exercise, do some calisthenics. Don't have time to run to a gym, drop and do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, install a chin-up bar, get a recumbent bike in your, oh shit, I can do that. Yeah. If you make you a priority, you can do that. The night before, maybe put together a couple little meal preps, so you're not eating like crap throughout the day. Put the phone down when you're home, take it out of your hands and put it in the other room. And if you're going to be present with your family and your kids, no phones at dinner, no phones when we're watching family night movies. Just start doing these simple things. Start reconnecting, start communicating at a level that you didn't even know existed. And it all sounds so, when you're in that space and when you're in that hole, you're like, holy crap, where do I start? How do
It's like decluttering
What-
everything.
Yeah,
Right.
you've heard that old adage, right? How do you eat an elephant? All right, yeah, one bite at a time, right? Do one thing, and then one thing turns into two, turns into three, and next thing you know, you're instilling behaviors, and the way you cope with stress or something isn't, destructive anymore. You know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I am going to, I just started doing something that I didn't think I would. Wooden puzzles.
Oh,
Wooden
they still
puzzle.
make those?
Listen to me.
Like a 12 piece?
Like
The
15
wooden
piece?
things.
No, I'm not talking about Lego blocks. I'm talking about like 400 piece wooden puzzle. And so this is what I did. I go, let me see what this is all about. And you know what happens when I put the wooden puzzle out? I can't think of anything else.
Right.
And for that time, and I'm tinkering and I'm making something, and it's like art therapy. It's like what it's just it's another
You're focusing on something different.
Right? And it's reading all these different things that are available to us, but we get kind of closed-minded when it comes to trying new things. We're very much creatures of habit, and I got to tell you, cold plunging, yoga, I go to hot yoga after I work out. Our hot yoga class, it buries me. I'm this gross, sweaty, nasty person that I go in the corner because I'm quite a sight, with my Richard Simmons headband and wristbands. And I do my yoga and I come out of there and I go, holy crap. I just did that. And so it's just repeating the things that we know are good for us. That's how we get better, incrementally, one day at a time.
So John, do you have courses that folks can on your website or that you offer where people can get that?
So all my information's on the website, lawenforcementlifecoach.com. And I have, when I'm speaking around the country, I have those dates listed. I just got back from Indiana last month. I was presenting to Greensburg PD and a bunch of surrounding agencies there. But most of my travels, they take me in and around Florida and the East Coast. And certainly if somebody needed some more information, that's probably the best way to get in touch.
All right, great. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, just go to lawenforcementlifecoach.com. If you're watching, it's right there on the bottom of the screen. Couldn't be easier. Yes. And so everything you need to know about getting in touch with John is right there. John, you have dropped so many nuggets. In our last 2 minutes that we have here, just, give that law enforcement officer that is really struggling just a quick roadmap, like the first 3 steps that he or she needs to do.
First 3 steps, I would say, know that you're not alone. And it's hard to know that because you think that nobody else could possibly ever understand how you got to this place. And that's the first lie our brain tells ourselves. The second thing you need to do once you realize that you're not alone is, and it's easier said than done, but to share with somebody that weight, have a conversation with a trusted friend, colleague, family member, somebody that's not going to judge, right? Because that's what we're afraid of. Is somebody going to, we all know there's people in our lives that'll die for us. Have that conversation with them, right? And get some of that weight off you. Because once we start talking about our failures and our troubles and the things that are bothering us, we can start breathing just a little bit better, right? Getting some of that weight off. and then come up with a plan. Like everybody's great at like steps 1 and 2, but we fail at like taking action. Like you got to make you unfucking yourself, excuse me, a priority. And that has to be the only priority. And I think we still put that on the back burner. You know what? I'll go see you in November. No, man. No, you need to see me this week. So you can't come to me. I'm going to come to you. And that's what this is about. It's about taking action. We all know the problems in our lives. We can dance around it. So we know what the problem is. The next step is just we got to take action. And this is what happens. If we take action and it doesn't get better, then do something different.
Right.
We're going to get feedback immediately. Immediately that feedback's going to come, but it only comes from movement, from taking action.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Wow.
Exactly.
Hey, that's it in a nutshell.
And
right?
I don't mean to
take the action.
minimize it, Sam. Hey, listen, things didn't get effed up overnight.
Right, exactly.
They're not going to
But
get
if you're not willing to own it and then take the action,
that's the key to you moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Correct. Well, John, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming
Thanks
back
for having
on.
me. You guys
yeah,
are
we know you got a super
great.
busy schedule. This was great. Again, Surviving Self-Inflicted Wounds: A Deputy's Life of Redemption. Pick up the book. You can get the book when you go to John's website. Again, that's lawenforcementlifecoach.com. Read more about John, connect with him. And hey, if you're in Florida, go see him next month.
I got a big house. You can stay in the spare room.
There you go. He just opened his doors, folks. Well, thank you, John, again, and we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Stay blessed. Another quick hour.
Yeah, it always goes by quick because John's just dropping nuggets left and right, and it's just been to have him even with this part 2. I think went faster than the last time we had him on. Again, go to episode 51, listen to the first episode, and then come to this, and so it'll all make sense. You'll get more background there. Hey, we got to thank our partners, Carry the Load. You see them every week right over my head, for being continuum of care partners and just what they do to heal our veterans and first responders and all the partners that we get to play in this arena with. We're so grateful there. Hey, we have got a ton of stuff coming up because the end of the year, while everybody's thinking about holidays, we're thinking about where we were in our jobs and what this time of year means. And it's not easy, and you're not alone. And so check us out at badgeofhonor.org. We have a workshop. It's not till December. If you want to have us come to your agency, go on the website, hit us up. There's a message board right there. Be happy to set that up. But before that, we've got conferences that we'll be at. And this Sunday, we've got Walk the Bridge. Again, we're together remembering the way that the folks that we've lost lived, not in the manner in which they died. So get out there in Rockwall and in Fort Worth. And again, just visit the website for all of the happenings that we'll be at around. To all of our veterans and our military, it's an interesting time. There's lots going on. I read, we got a big ship over in a certain part of the world, and hopefully it will, let's just use the word dissuade other folks from escalating the situation. So can't be more specific because we might get taken down.
We don't know. We don't know.
So thank you, our troops, for again holding the line just internationally, being there for our allies. Thank you to our veterans for fighting the good fight, to allow us to do a show like this every week. To our first responders holding the line here at home, thank you. We're praying for you every day. John, take us home.
You couldn't have said it better, Sam. My big thing is I'm going to be speaking tomorrow night at with the Daughters of the American Revolution about Walk the Bridge. So join us if you're in the area. And
where's that?
I think it's Colleyville, or maybe I got to look. I got to figure it out. I asked for the address. I got to figure it out. But just go on their website and they'll show you where the meeting is. As for 22-0, man, thank you guys. I'm blessed to have connected with you. There was a reason for it. Thank you for getting me to this point so far. And to everybody out there, man, do not give up. What may not work this time may work next time. Just keep searching for what works for you, and stay positive. And talk to John Kelly, talk to anybody that's around you, and go, hey, I need the resources. I need the help, and help somebody else if you can. So until then, Sam, you know what? If you could be anything in this world, be kind to a brother or sister.
See you next week, everybody. Take care.
Peace.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.